Okay, so I have just finished Kamala Harris's 107 days. So I started it. I'm sorry, I need to, yeah, here we go. This makes me feel better. Okay. I started it at midnight. And, life happens. I'm teaching classes, whatever. So I just finished the book. Um, Instant reaction. This is not, wait, do I have the book behind me? Nope, I do not. Okay, so this is not the book What Happened by Hillary Clinton. What Happened by Hillary Clinton was a tell-all of the torrid situation that happened with 2016. She named names. She was very explicit about how she felt, the disloyalty that she felt from folks. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to recover from a cold. So I'm saying all this to say, when you read What Happened, which if you are interested in a very juicy book, Game Change and What Happened are the two most like very juicy, tell all what happened, whatever. When I finished reading What Happened, I knew actually, to be honest, I didn't have to finish it. I, from the first chapter, I was like, Hillary Clinton is done. She ain't running for office ever again. She is done. Okay. This book is not that. And it's pretty clear, actually, it's pretty, the tone of it is she didn't say anything that hadn't already been out there. Let's put it that way. So it wasn't any large revelations of who was in support of her or who was not in support of her. I think that it was the tone of the entire book was making an argument of who she is and who Tim Walz is. And it's getting people who clearly haven't read any of her other books. It's also getting people who didn't pay much attention to her during the Biden years. So then it wasn't this, you know, it's it's pretty much making a case as to why she is a qualified candidate and how she would be an even better candidate in 2028 with longer preparation time, a greater amount of um, people understanding that she could do it. And with that understanding of knowing that she could do it, she has, and it seems like she's also setting the standard to let people know that she has Black women support and dollars. So if you're thinking that it's just because of Biden per se, it is almost in spite of Biden, and that she has a force around her that at this point there is no other candidate that is coming along that has that same type of support. I get that we have some people who are kind of coming in like Gavin Newsom, who is trying to lay that same level of foundation. And what I think that she's doing is this book is getting ahead of or maybe stepping on his momentum a bit and reminding people that she is a force. She is a force to where how many people do you know who can raise almost $300 million within a week? And I have to say, like, there are moments in this book that had me tear up. And the time that she stated when she got the call from Biden that he was dropping out, I teared up because I'll never forget what I was doing. I was at, I was driving to Legoland and with the kids, and I was like, oh my God, I'm almost at Legoland. Like I was maybe 30, 45 minutes out. And I was like, oh, I was like 30 minutes out. I was like, oh my God, she dropped out. I mean, he dropped out. And wait, she's in. And by the time I'm leaving the park, I've been bombarded with text messages like, you're getting in this Zoom. You're getting in this Zoom. This Zoom is tonight. You're joining this org. And I was like, oh. So I hopped on the Zoom and within minutes, ladies, we're here. We're dollars are being transported. We are donating because in the Biden Kamala Harris campaign, there was a lot of $19.08. And then to represent AK, there was 1913 that represent something else, that represent another organization. Then there was 1911. Right. So every founder of the Divine Nine had a dollar amount, and they were giving that on a monthly basis. So our feet was kind of in. We had one foot in. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that the Divine Nine, when I say we, the Divine Nine was present for sure. But when she jumped in and we had the backing of everyone, and we were like, oh no, wait a second. We are, I mean, on the call, it was, ladies, there are other folks that it was almost an unspoken that so and so, that there's going to be other folks who may want to get in. Who do we think that those other folks are going to be? Gavin Newsom. Let's keep it a buck. And so and I think she doesn't say that, but she kind of implied that because she called Gavin Newsom for his support and he's like, I'm bicycling, I'll call you back. And he never called her back through the whole campaign. He never called her back. And if you looked at that roll call, he looked a little salty. So we clearly knew what was up. You know what was up. Okay. So I thought that anyway, so it was an unspoken, we're like, and this was the focus. We need to shore up her campaign so that no one even thinks about stepping into the fray. And we're going to do that by showing up with our dollars. How much can we donate? And we are going to donate. We had a goal. We're going to do $1 million in a day. By the end of this phone call, we're going to pull up with $1 million. We had 1.5, right? And then that started, and some of the other members of the Divine Nine, they like, hold up, Black women, because a lot of them are married to us, the sorority sisters. They like, we doing a call the next day. And they like, do you know that our Star Wars raised 1.5? We could do it better. And then they raise more money. And we like, oh, and that's what she mentions all of this excitement that came along after. And I think the difference between her and Hillary is that the Hillary supporters felt like they had to be almost in hiding because of the level of attack. The Kamala Harris, the K Hive, there's attack, and I see it online, but it didn't feel like, in my opinion, the attacks are hard to digest, I'll admit, but I think at that point we were there's people were sick of the attacks on the Hillary folks. Like the anti-Hillary folks, the level of attacks of the anti-Hillary folks, we were like, okay, look, gloves off. And I love the fact that she brings up that she was specifically like, look, we just gonna take gloves off when it comes to social media. I didn't meet them yet, but I am entrusting them with the ability to defend me. And it demonstrates like her level of trust in general, like her gut. And I thought that that was really interesting. Something that we did not know is her top three. And we knew that Shapiro, because that's what rumors were. And I'm going to say that listening to her discussions with Shapiro, with her vetting process with the three of them, I did not like Shapiro at all. And I mean, you meet somebody and you automatically like, so, um, you already making plans to move into the VP. Like she hadn't even chose you and you already making plans to move into her house. Like, I mean, it was in trying to say, like, we can do this together, like all of this we talk instead. So I can see why she picked Tim Walz, and I'm gonna be frank even more. I like Tim Walz. I thought that Tim Walz was a very relatable individual. Um, and he's really refreshing to where he absolutely wasn't as calculated as some of and he's not very polished, and I love his unpolishedness that comes off. He comes off very authentic and as a watcher. And I thought that but and with that being said, he's not a good debater. And so if she just, I mean, I could be wrong, y'all, but I think she's going to run again. And I think this is a good argument that she's making in order to create a sense that she plans on running again. I think she's tired, but I think that she's measuring the level of excitement and how much, in this book tour, how much energy she can actually bring. And I think that at the end of the day, she's going to make the decision to run again. I don't know if she's going to put Tim Walz on the ticket, but I would not be opposed to her making the decision to put him still on the ticket because I do think that he is enduring and it's unfortunate that people did not truly embrace him as much as they could have. But I think that if you gave him time, you polish him up a little bit more, especially on the debate space, I think he is someone that they could win in 2028. Um, I say all this to say, I wanted, I don't, I do want, I mean, it's not on my top to-do list. It's on my second tier list. I'm trying to put through a couple of book proposals. I'm working on my second and my third and fourth book proposal, and I'm trying to get that done before the end of the week. And with that being said, so I did want to write a book about the evolution of Joe Biden in regards to race, because I do think that he has a fascinating road when it comes to race relations. However, um, it hasn't always been. He also, I say all that, and I think it's important to note that he is also that stereotypical white male road when it comes to race of man of his age. So, if I have to say that there was anything disappointing of this book, is how she talks about Joe Biden and his camp. And I'm really disappointed because I thought that he evolved a little bit more because of all the things he did in the in his administration. I just assumed that he was a little bit more supportive than I sadly gave him credit for. So, to me, it makes it even more complicated when you watch it, when you read this book and realize that there's a little bit of sabotage here. And I'm sure that he probably won't believe that. And I do think that like for example, I'm actually kind of taken aback by the fact of how little interaction privately they had within pretty much it took 3.5 years for you guys to have like a private outing together, for the two couples to, I'm like, wow, you got like, I mean, I know, I get that Joe Biden was um annoyed by their interaction during their campaign in 2020, but I just felt like there should have been a beyond, and then the notion that it seems like you were trying to make her seem less than, like it was, there's a little bit of sabotage that went on, and I just am low-key sad about that. I just would have thought that would not be the case, being that, you know, yeah, I'm disappointed in Biden and Biden's camp completely. So I'm not upset, and I get that ambition counters ambition. And part of this is probably that you felt that Kamala Harris would be someone who's trying to usurp and run for office and get more notoriety. And, she's young. So she's going to be she's younger. So she's going to be the next thing. But um, I just would have thought that he would have been able to kind of manage it. And I'm wondering if he would have done this a little bit better, if he would have been able to run for his second term, and then he would have did a better handoff. My last thought that came up as I was listening to this book and reading the book. So I have both. Like I have two copies of the book, um and in the Audible. My last thought was I'm wondering if part of the issue with Kamala Harris is that unlike Barack Obama ran a generally racial neutral kind of race in which there are times where they did have conversations about race and different coded things that signaled to people about that he's, still a black dude, right? But he didn't lean in a lot when it came to support from the black community and actually having like a level of surrounding himself in black culture. Not to say he didn't, but it he didn't openly do so in a way that Kamala has. So she mentions pretty early on, I think it's like she mentions pretty early on, I think it's like chapter 7 or 8, that about the divine nine. And she mentions throughout the book, well, she's my sword, she's my this. And then and he's a member of the divine nine, my frat, and it's just, that can be a bit between that and then the fact that she was willing to step into this space where she highlighted Howard. She highlights her, she uses a Kendrick Lamar quote. Um, she uses hip hop quotations a lot. She quotes black art. Like, I mean, the thing is that it's not to say that I know that she's intentional, but it's almost like it's second nature. This is who she is. So it becomes so authentic of showcasing who she is in what would a black person be like who runs for office. I'm not a person who's going to not have like something like Wakanda Forever up. Like I'm not going to hide my blackness in the kind of music I like, the kind of, where I went to school, my sorority affiliation, my this, like I'm not going to hide any of this. And I'm not going to curb my speech in order to make people feel comfortable. And that is extremely overwhelming for people who may not be familiar with any of this. And it may come off as, first of all, number one, we've never had a presidential candidate to do that. So I can see where some people are like, oh, she's trying too hard. But how do you try too hard? This is who I am. And I think that's where the inauthentic, it's almost comes off as people were like, oh my gosh, she's trying too hard. You don't have to do all that. But what you're really saying is signaling is that you're used to a candidate code switching so much that they would pretend that they would show up in black spaces this way, and then they turn and show up in a predominantly white facing or wide culture in a different way. And what happens when there is a candidate who doesn't code switch. And that is Kamala Harris. And it really is challenging the mindset of, are we, not everyone willing to understand the necessity of having a candidate who shows up who they are in all of their diversity and gender without code switching to make non-Black males, okay, feel comfortable. Because it has to be the non-Black and males feel completely comfortable. And that is a powerful um, discussion, because there are one of my favorite books that I love to teach from. It's out of print, but anyway, it's called Code Words, and I think it's Taj, and it's called Racial Code Words. And it is such a good book, but I think it's Mendelberg, Taj Mendelberg. Anyway, my point is that over the years, especially amongst Black, we always talk about the necessity of code switching. And to see someone who's able to find this unique balance to where she doesn't necessarily have to code switch. She can genuinely, consistently show up how she would like to show up in all spaces without and demands, in some respect, you take me for who I am. And to be perfectly honest, the more that I'm thinking about this and the more that I'm talking about this, it makes the loss that much harder. That America as a whole, or there's a segment of America that is uncomfortable with women and is uncomfortable with diversity. Anyway, it's a good book. It's a good read. It's not a hard read. It's a quick read. So, you know, enjoy it, don't enjoy it. But I had an interesting time digesting it. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye.